Dan, how you doing?
Oh, hi there. Is that Lorenzo?
Yeah.
Hi, how's it going over there?
Good, man. How about you?
Yeah, it's good, it's good. Thanks for giving us this little talk on over the phone.
My pleasure, and I appreciate you being helpful to us.
That's no problem. Anything I can do to help out.
Thanks.
Just got a couple of questions for you, if that's all right.
Go for it.
Could you tell me about any scene that you've been working on today for Transformers?
Well, as you know, Michael and I prefer to try to keep as much secret of what's going on as possible, so it doesn't hurt the viewing experience. Because we're always worried if people find out things, it doesn't feel fresh, you know. But I can't. Here's what I will tell you about. I think one of the interesting things that decisions that Michael made was to choose Chicago for a large attack, if you would. And he chose the city for a particular reason, which I understood pretty well when he described it, but when I actually saw it occur and saw the footage occur, it got me so excited. And the reason he chose Chicago is because in virtually every other urban city, skyscrapers, tall buildings are very close to one another. It's very narrow in between them, creating sort of a tunnel effect. In Chicago, they have very wide streets and very big elements like the river that runs through it that keeps the buildings at a distance from one another.
Yeah.
And the result of that is that the scale of this movie is far bigger in feeling than either of the first two, because you can really feel the scale of it. You can see that although we don't have our Transformers, of course, on the set, but you can see that even when you're looking at the human beings, they feel more, in a way, more significant because you can see more of the expanse of what's going on. So I think it's going to have this tremendous effect on the movie, that it's going to have this feeling like it's not like the first and second movie.
Right. You seem to have been filming in Chicago for quite a long time now. How much of the action in Transformers 3 actually takes place in the city?
Well, there's a large amount of it. It's not the only action, but it's certainly the biggest action scenes in the movie occur here.
So is it fair to assume that that's actually the climactic action sequence?
There's a lot of the climax occurs here. There's some other places it occurs as well, but there's a lot of it that occurs here throughout. I'm trying to think as I answer the question when you think about the overall movie. Yeah, this is where the biggest action occurs by far, and there's a lot of different sequences that occur here.
Okay. With Revenge of the Fallen, in my opinion, certainly it upped the stakes from the first movie in terms of effects and sheer scale. But how does Transformers 3 compare with the first two in terms of action and spectacle?
Well, I think Michael's topped himself. I've just seen, Michael showed me the other day about 7 minutes of cut footage. Now, I've been watching dailies, and that's one thing, but when you sort of see it cut together with music, and I mean, there wasn't one of us who saw it, Shia, myself, and a bunch of us saw it, who literally looked at each other and said, there's nothing in the first two movies of this scale.
Ooh.
And this is without the robots in it.
Yeah.
So you can imagine what it's going to be like when we have the robots.
Well, speaking of the robots, which characters...
Never going to get me to tell you.
Well, I mean, maybe not new ones, but are there any particular old characters that we know of that are playing a major role in Transformers 3, besides obviously Bumblebee?
Well, we've always felt that, Bumblebee and Optimus probably are the two most important Transformers. And we wanted to make sure that both had very central roles in the movie. So that's definitely occurred.
Yeah. What is it, do you think, about Transformers that makes it work so well as a feature film or series of feature films where other toy lines may have failed?
Well, look, I think the biggest distinction, and the fans like yourself who understand this, is it's not a toy line, it's a mythology. There's a giant amount of mythology that exists to draw from. And, there's other toy lines, which, I've looked at myself, and some probably will make good movies, but you have to invent it from whole cloth. This has great characters. They have personalities. They have a backstory. They have, centuries of enmity between them. They have an underdog story in them. I mean, there's so much material that I think it is very clear to me that that's what's made it possible for us to be successful.
Yeah. What would you say Michael Bay was like to work with as director?
I love it. It's so much fun. It's like an adrenaline rush every day. He commands the set in a way like none other. And you are constantly racing from one spot to the other in his quest to get the most amount of every moment, the most amount of biggest bang, the most dramatic emotional exchange. It's really fun because a lot of sets you sit around on and you sort of go, okay, when's the next shot? You're never doing that. You're always moving. He's always moving the camera. He's always moving the set. He's always reaching beyond what you saw on the page, and that's exciting for those of us sitting on the set.
Yeah. How much longer do you think you're going to be filming in Chicago?
Towards the end of this month is when we finish here, and then we go on to Detroit.
To Detroit next, is it? And is that for an action?
Detroit is next.
Is that for an action sequence in Detroit as well?
There are production sequences in Detroit as well.
Excellent. And how soon is it likely to be before any footage is made available?
That's a good question. I don't know the answer to that. I know that we've talked about marketing materials coming out late fall, early winter. Probably not till then at the earliest. We have the advantage in this movie of everybody knows we're there. And in shooting in 3D is more complicated. We're all learning a little bit about the process, not just of shooting. Michael learned that in about a day. It was amazing. I heard a lot of these stories about how difficult it was and how slow it was and how cumbersome it was. And I'll tell you, he changed my perspective on it completely. About literally one day we did a pre-production of practice, and then first day on the set we're shooting away at 3D. And there are some advantages and disadvantages. So at the end, I don't think it's a hell of a lot different from a process point of view. But the post-process and how the film is actually processed and how you deliver elements into them, 3D elements, the visual effects and all that, we're all still trying to figure out exactly. I mean, obviously we know how it works, but it's new to us, and so we're on that learning curve.
Yeah. How much do you think the 3D element is going to add to the film experience itself?
Well, Michael is a visual. He's very demanding about visuals. So I have a feeling that we're going to really, really like what's occurred with 3D. We also have a subject matter, and I'll say there are 30-foot-plus robots that are tremendously interesting in 3D. So I'm looking forward to it.
What sort of films inspired you to actually get into the film business in the first place?
That's a hell of a good question. I don't think I've ever been asked that question. Cool Hand Luke, Deer Hunter, Apocalypse Now, probably Godfather. Those movies probably. Maybe Star Wars too.
Oh, of course. So there's a strong Marlon Brando influence there.
I guess there was. I didn't mean it to be, but I think if all those movies took you to a very different world. French Connection's another movie that really influenced me, and those movies were very uncompromising in what they were trying to accomplish, and they really got me excited because of it.
Yeah. And
I think the first time, though, when I think about it, the very first time I was completely blown away as a kid. Sadly, it tells you how old I am, but it was when I saw Bullet in the theater.
Right.
And I think I was too young to see it, but boy, was it cool.